Hey mathematicians, this video is for the multiple choice section of the Unit 4 summative. 7 multiple choice questions. Overall, they were pretty decent. I just want to highlight a few that had specific issues. Let's look at number 1 first. Number 1 is interpreting a statement based on a derivative and putting it into words. So if I'm telling you the derivative of C, okay, C is cost and my output is dollars to produce X gallons of fresh squeezed lemonade. So this is a weird question because my input is a gallon. My output will be dollars, and then the value of the derivative is dollars per something, dollars per gallon. So let's look at this one. First one. At the time, nope, no times involved, so it's definitely not A. That was the most common incorrect answer. The cost, oh, there we go, increases at a rate of 115 per 10 gallons. That's close, but it's not quite right because it's not taking into account the fact that I'm at 10 gallons exactly. That's my input, so it's not D either. C, it costs this much. No, that's just an input-output. The only one that works here is B. When the amount produced is 10 gallons, so we're saying like at blank, at 10 gallons, the cost is increasing at $1.15 per gallon because it's a derivative of cost. So B was our solution here. That's a tricky one. It looks the most like our sentence stem, so that's probably a hint for you. Number 2, limit question based on this table. Beautiful. Step 1, every time you see a limit question, plug in the number. -6 minus 1 is -7. On the bottom, 0 minus 0. Okay, this is looking promising. F of -7, 0 over 0. Cool, L'Hopital's rule. You don't have to prove it nicely because it's a multiple choice question. We just have to say like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, that's L'Hopital's rule. Here's the biggest issue I noticed, though. And I'm just going to erase this and write it way smaller over here. 0 over 0, L'Hopital's rule. The biggest issue I noticed was taking this derivative. So doing L'Hopital's rule. So the limit as x approaches -2. The error was on top. A lot of us wrote, yeah, f prime of 3x minus 1 times derivative of the inside times 3. That was an issue for us. On the bottom, it's just over 2x. Now we plug in -2 again, and we get f prime of, same thing, -7 times 3. All over -4. And luckily f prime of -3 is right here on my table. So 3 times 3 over -4, that's 9 over -4. Looking at my options here, it's B. Again, A was the most common incorrect answer because we forgot to do the chain rule. So B for number 2, nice work. Number 3, you just did it for the last one. You're probably thinking, hey, I'm going to use L'Hopital's rule again. And let's check. On the bottom, 5 times -4, that's -20 plus 20. Yeah, that's definitely going to be 0 on the bottom. On top, f of -4. If I plug -4 into my f function, I get -2 as my output. That means that's my new input when I plug that into the next step. So a lot of us did like f of -4 times f of -4. We got -2 as our answer, so we have to do now f of -2. That's the new input. So scroll back up here, f of -2 is 0. Okay, so just like we thought it would be, this is another L'Hopital's rule question. This one is a little trickier to do that derivative, but it's the same idea. Chain rule again. So limit as x approaches -4. On the bottom, it's just 5. On the top, derivative of the outside. Keep the inside the same. Multiply by derivative of the inside. And if we had the same issue on the input part, a lot of us did the same incorrect thing here. We just had an issue with our inputs and our outputs, right? So we're plugging in -4, and we get f prime of f of -4 times f prime of -4. So there's a lot going on here, and our issue was that we didn't find this and then plug it into f prime. We just kind of found both of them at the same time. So let's go up to -4 here. F of -4 is -2. F prime of -4 is -1. Let's plug both of those in here. So we get f prime of -2 times -1 all over 5. And luckily we found f prime of -2 already. We know that, or we see that it is 7. We didn't actually find that one. Mr. Vulcan's wrong there. So we get 7 times -1 all over 5, or just -7/5. Hopefully that's an answer. Yes, it's C. Last multiple choice on the front here. We have position. We want acceleration. So we need to be thinking 2 derivatives. And then plug in our input. Plug in t equals 0. So here's our function. I'm going to write out v of t here. That's the first derivative. Derivative of cosine is negative sine. So it's negative sine of 3t. And then chain rule says times derivative of the inside, so times 3. I'm going to move that out to the front. Same thing with the next one. Derivative of sine is cosine, so it's minus cosine of 4t. It would be times 4, but I'm going to move my 4 to the front because I like having those coefficients in the front. So there's our first derivative. Our second derivative will give us acceleration, so a of t. Derivative of sine is cosine. It'll be -9 times cosine of 3t. That sign doesn't change when I go from sine to cosine. I multiplied by 3 again, the derivative of that inside. And then this one, cosine to positive sine, so it's plus 16 cosine of 4t. Remember, every time we're just multiplying by 4 again, multiply by derivative of the inside. Okay, so I have my acceleration function. I want to know what's the acceleration of 0. So here's where, like I said, we got to know the quadrants of the unit circle. We got to know quadrant 1 and the coordinate grid axes. Sorry. So let's see, -9 times cosine of 0 plus 16 times, there's something not right here. I forgot to change this one to sine. Mr. Vulcan. Okay, times sine of 0. Sine of 0 is 0. That's nice, because then I don't have to worry about that one. Cosine of 0 is 1, so this is just -9. And luckily that is an option here. That's option A. So let's keep rolling here, but if you had an issue with this one, it was probably keeping track of your coefficients or just plugging it into your trig functions. You got to know those trig functions like the back part. Number 5. So this is kind of a weird one. It gives you this whole situation. E of t, the output of E is in thousands of people. T is number of years. So we're saying after 5 years, okay, so we're plugging in 5. I'm going to cross out 2 of these right away. I'm going to cross out A and C right away because those don't show that my input is 5 years. It will be increasing. Anytime you see increasing, right, that's a derivative at a rate of 2,000 earthlings per year. And remember, it was in thousands of people up here. So if the rate is increasing, that's our clue that it's a derivative. B is definitely our answer. Number 6, 2 more multiple choice here. This is a throwback question. This is one you've seen before. Step 1, find the derivative. H prime of x equals f prime of g of x times g prime of x. I'm really hitting these table questions hard. I feel like they were more common on the last few years of AP tests, so I want to make sure you're prepared for those. And then plug in 1. So h prime of 1 equals f prime of g of 1 times g prime of 1. And now we plug in our inputs, right? So look back up at your table. What's g of 1? G of 1 is -1. And g prime of 1 is 2. So this is f prime of -1 times 2. And then we go to f prime of -1. Here's -1, here's f prime, I get 5. Okay, cool. So I have 5 times 2, or D on number 6 here. This was one that I missed the first time around, and then Joaquin had to tell me what the right answer was, so thanks, Joaquin. Number 7, same idea, we're just using the quotient rule. Take a derivative with the quotient rule, plug in your inputs. So h of x is f over g. What's h prime? Find h prime of x first. Derivative of the top. Keep the bottom the same. Minus the top times derivative of the bottom. This is just the quotient rule. You've seen this probably 100 times. And now plug in 1 everywhere you see it. So h prime of 1 is, I'm going to take a little shortcut here. I'm just going to plug in f prime of 1. 3. So 3 times, what's g of 1? 2. Oh, I wrote the answer there, not the 2. Minus f of 1 is 5. Cool. Minus 5 times, what's g prime of 1? It's 4. All over g of x squared, so 3 squared. No, sorry, that's not the right one. 2 squared. And now let's simplify. We got 6 minus 20 all over 4. We have to simplify because it's multiple choice. So negative 14 over 4 or negative 7 over 2. And luckily that's also an option, also A. So if you have any questions, rewatch this thing. Shout them out, ask me, we'll figure it out. But this is all the multiple choice questions on this summative here. Good luck on your corrections.